All right. So this video is to explain tissues. What types? Just basic tissues, cutaneous, meaning your skin tissues, and bone tissues. What is a tissue? A tissue is just groups of cells coming together. Two or more types of cell. So if I have one cell, the study of cell is called what? Cytology. But when you put a lot of cells together, the name of the study will change. It will be histology. So histology is the study of cells, of tissues. But what is the tissue? Just a group of cells coming together, right? I wanted to explain the types of tissue and how do you determine that type, basically. There are 4 types of tissues. 4 types. How do we define those 4 types? We just look at something that they have in common and classify them naturally, right? The 4 types, the type of tissue that you will find on top of things. Let's say on top of my tongue, or on my skin, or below my tongue. Things that you can touch basically, they're exposed outside, or even within yourself, on top of your blood vessel, behind your blood vessel, inside the lining of your stomach, inside the respiratory tract. All those are called epithelial. Why it's called epithelial? Epi, top, thelial, layer. It just means top layer. That's the first one. The second one is what? Connective tissues. Connective tissue will be the type of tissue that will connect those. It'll be between the epithelium. And then the third one will be muscle. And the fourth, nervous tissue. So we have 4 types of tissue, right? Epithelial tissues, connective tissues, muscle tissues, and nervous tissues, right? Then, what makes an epithelial? Why it's called epithelial? First, the cells are standing next to each other. They're not separated. They have to be touching physically. That characteristic is called what? Cellularity. Cellularity means the cells are standing next to each other. Second, they have top and bottom. The top will be the one either exposed outside or inside. Let's say when you take blood vessels, right? If you take the blood vessel, remember the blood goes into the vessel. So the inside of the blood vessel will be epithelial. The outside will be epithelial, right? So it has apical part, I mean the top, and the basal part. It means that before you get here, you got something between them. So the very layer of the epithelial will stop somewhere. You're gonna have connective. You're gonna go back and come to epithelial again. So both of them will sit on something. The whatever thing they sit on, it's called the basement membrane. Basement membrane. Then what do they have? They don't have blood vessels. We say they're avascularized. Why? They don't need to have blood vessel. Think about if you had blood vessel on your skin, you'll be bleeding every second, right? So that's why they're what? Avascular. They don't have blood vessels, right? So, but they are innervated. What does that mean? They have nerves. If you touch your tongue, you can taste the food, right? It has nerve. If you touch yourself, you can feel yourself. So they have nerve because they have to sense things inside of you. So those are things that epithelial will have. Now, how do we classify them? We look at the shape of the cell, what it looks like, and the number of layers it has. How many cells? You'll be like, okay, is that one layer or many layers? Or what does the cell look like? And based on the shape, there are many shapes. We'll just divide them into three groups, that's it, just to make it simple. One will be very flat, just like quarters and dimes and stuff, like flat. We call that squamous cell. The other one looks like a cube, it's a little bit bigger, like a round one. We call that one cuboidal. The third one is long, we call that columnar. Now, how do you know the difference between columnar and cuboidal? Cuboidal, when you look at it, the nucleus of the cell will be in the center. But the columnar, the nucleus will be at the bottom. It's gonna be different. Because sometimes when you look at something, it could look columnar or cuboidal, you don't know. Because the shape is a relative thing. So if something is like this, and you see the nucleus at the bottom, it's cuboidal. Even if it looks like columnar. So we got it 3. Then, if it's a one layer, it's simple. If it's a many layer, 2 or more, it's gonna be stratified. So it's based on what? The shape of the cell and the number of layers it has. That's gonna be how you characterize them. Now, how do you know which one to find where? You take the squamous epithelial. It'll be on top of things. What type of thing? Depending on the thing. If it's something that you have to rub against all the time, right? Or something has to go through it, it'll be stratified. Because remember, you have to lose the skin or lose that part a little bit so another one can grow. So that'll be a lot of layers stratified. But if it's inside your body, it's not exposed to outside, right? But it kind of touch something else, like the lining of your stomach. For example, the top part of your small intestine and all that, all the organs have to touch each other. They have to be kind of slippery, moving around. They're gonna be what? Simple squamous. Why? Because you wanna reduce friction between stuff. At the same time, if you go to the very end of each organ, like for example, if you take your lungs, the very, very end where oxygen and carbon dioxide have to exchange, right? That very end part will have to be simple squamous to facilitate diffusion of oxygen in and out. So that will be simple squamous. Make sense? Now, if you go to your blood vessel, the very arterial, you're gonna veneal at the end, it'll be simple squamous. Why? Because you have to exchange nutrients and oxygen and stuff between them. You have to be thin. So that's how you know it's thin. The thick one, everything that has something going through it will be thick, stratified. Then you go to cuboidal. Cuboidal, we just pretend it's glands, all glands. For the exam, it's just gland, and then you're gonna think about simple or stratified. Everything is simple, but one thing, sweat gland. That's it. Everything has one layer. Sweat gland is the only one that has many layers. It doesn't mean that everything in the body, I'm just covering for our exam, what are we covering? But it's more than that, right? So now when I go to the columnar, we're only gonna talk about two things in the columnar here. One, in the respiratory tract, remember I said when we sneeze, what we say, pseudo, stratified, ciliated, columnar, epithelial. Why? Because it's gonna be in the respiratory tract. It's a long columnar, but it's pseudo stratified. Make sense? But if you go to the stomach, in the digestive system, we're gonna have the columnar, right, with microvilli. Remember, not cilia, but microvilli. Why? To increase absorption of nutrient through those organs. Make sense? So we cover everything here. We got epithelial, then we have transitional epithelial. That transitional will be what? In where? The bladder. So you need to know which one. We're gonna go back again now. Simple squamous will be what? In the alveoli and the small blood vessel, the veneal arterioles. Stratified squamous, the skin, the tongue. Simple cuboidal, glands. Stratified cuboidal, sweat gland. Right? Columnar, pseudostratified, trachea, respiratory. Columnar, simple columnar, digestive system. That's it. And then transitional, the bladder, right? And then we got pseudostratified. That's it. So we're not talking about the stratified columnar. We're not talking about it because the book doesn't cover it, okay? Then we're done with epithelial. So if I ask, your skin will be what? Stratified squamous epithelial. So you know that's important to know, right? Now we're gonna go to connective tissue. Remember we said we got 4 types of tissue, right? Epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous. Connective tissue is the one that looks like pizza. Remember? Now the cell that makes the pizza ingredients and everything, that cell is called what? Osteoblast in the bone, for example. Fibroblast in the fibrous connective tissue. It's just a cell that makes the thing it's gonna live in. So every time I say pizza, I'm not talking about epithelial, I'm talking about connective tissue. The dough of the pizza, remember that thing that you make, the dough will be the ground substance. But in my pizza, I'm adding spaghetti. The spaghetti will make it thicker. That's gonna be the collagen fiber. Then if I add angel hair, my elastic fiber, it'll make it stretchy a little bit. Then I can add reticular fiber, it's gonna make it more smushy, like the spleen. So everything that I'm adding to make it a tissue. Well, tissue is just like pizza. You can make different kind of pizza with different ingredients. So for my pizza, the most important thing for my connective tissue will be, in connective tissues, the cell will not stand next to each other. You know what they're gonna do? They're gonna be far apart from each other. If you find one cell here, you find the other one here. So it gotta be space between them. What is in that space? The ground substance, right? And the fiber. Now, if I mix the ground substance and the fiber together, I make the matrix. The matrix is the ground substance and the fiber mixed together. If I add the cell, my pepperoni or my pineapple, or my mushroom onto it, my ingredient, it becomes a connective tissue. So every connective tissue will have 3 things. What? the cell, the toppings of the pizza, the ground substance, the dough of the pizza, and the fiber, which could be the collagen, which is like spaghetti, right? Elastic, like angel hair, and then the reticular could be like a macaroni, like shredded thing like that. So every connective tissue is named after the cell. If the cell is fibroblast, we call connective tissue fibrous connective tissue. If the cell is osteoblast, we call it bone. If the cell is chondroblast, we call it cartilage. If the cell is a red blood cell and white blood cell, we call it blood. You see what I'm saying? You see, every cell will have something. That's why we say pepperoni pizza. We say, pineapple pizza. We don't call the pizza by the name of the dough. We call it by the name of the topping. It's the same thing. You look at the cell, you name the tissue after that. So because we have that, we need to know for this exam 10 connective tissues. How we remember the 10? Very easy. The first one will be the fibrous connective tissue. What type of cell will I have in a fibrous connective tissue? Fibroblast. And then we say the fibrous connective tissue could be two types. It could be loose and dense. What's the difference between loose and dense? Dense will have a lot of collagens and loose will have less collagen. That's it. So if I take the loose connective tissue, I will not have a lot of collagen, just a few collagen here, there, depending. The first one we need to know is the areolar connective tissue. What is areolar connective tissue? It's the connective tissue that, of course, has the fibroblast and all the cell we'll talk about. Mast cell, red blood cells, what else? Plasma cells, lymphocytes. We have different type of cell in the areolar. Remember the one we look under the microscope? That one. So we need to recognize that. We call that one like supreme pizza. It has everything. It has all the cells. That is loose because it does not have a lot of collagen inside of it. It has few collagen, few elastic fiber, and few reticular fiber. Because we got 3 different kind of fiber, right? Then the next one we need to talk about is the reticular tissue. It is a loose connective tissue. It has what? Reticular fiber. For example, the spleen. Then the adipose, we're going to presume it's loose because some books say it's loose and stuff, but it's not important. The fat, we call that adipose tissue. And the cells are what? Adipocytes. It's the same thing. So we got 3 loose connective tissue, right? Then we have dense. What makes it dense? The presence of collagen fiber makes it dense. How many type of dense we have? 2. If the collagen fibers all go in one direction nicely and smoothly, we call that dense regular, exactly. But if the spaghetti, the collagen fiber go into different direction, we call it what? Irregular connective tissue. So that makes it what? 5. At this point, let's go to the beginning. First, areolar connective tissue. Second, reticular. Third, adipose, that's loose. Then the 2 dense, regular, dense, irregular. That's 5. We got 5 more left, right? Now the 5 left, we're gonna have bone is easy. The bone, we know the osteoblast, osteocyte, remember osteoprogenitor, so that's easy. All the osteon, osteoid, canaliculi, lacunae, we got all that. The lamella, remember? Then that's 6. And that one looks like what? Tree trunk, right? The bone looks like a tree trunk. So we recognize that. Then the cartilage, we're gonna have 3 different cartilages, right? We're gonna have hyaline cartilage, elastic cartilage, and fibrocartilage. What's the difference? What do they have in, why do they call them cartilage? What do they have in common? Their cartilages, we're gonna look at their cell shape. They're gonna look like a little eyeball in the lacunae, like a little lake. They all look like a little circle with a line in the middle. You look at somebody looking like this, a little bit kinda. So they have the same type of eyes, type of cell. But what's the difference between the 3? In a hyaline, shiny, like the end of the bone, we have less collagen fiber. That's why it's shiny. In the elastic, we have elastic fiber, like angel hair. And then in the fibrocartilage, we have a lot of collagen fiber. So that's 3 tissue, cartilage, right? Now, that's 9. And the 10 is blood. Do we recognize blood? Yes, of course. just a red blood dot. So every cell should make something in your mind. So you can have these 10 pictures, you need to recognize each one. And you need to know which one is where. We're going to start from the beginning and set the 10. Areolar, everywhere. Every epithelial tissue, basement membrane will sit on the areola. So that's easy, right? Under the skin, areola. Between the organ, areola. That's easy. The second, reticular, the spleen. Okay, that's one example. The third one, adipose, where do you find fat? Everywhere. That's easy too, right? Then, the dense regular and dense irregular. The dense regular, the one that's regular, it'll be tendon and ligament. Do you know where the tendon is? Of course. Tendon attaches what? Muscle to bone. Ligament is the tissue that attaches bone to bone. That's easy too. We got that. Now, dense irregular will be your dermis of the skin. Easy. And the three cartilages, we got three. The hyaline cartilage, let's say the end of every long bone. Every bone you have, at the end you're gonna have hyaline. That's easy to know too, right? The elastic cartilage, your ear. And the epiglottis, we're gonna focus on the ear. And then the fibrocartilage will be between the bodies of the vertebrae. Remember the one you showed between the vertebrae? And in the pubic symphysis. And the meniscus of the knee. That's the fibrous, the tough one. That's good. So we're done with that. Then the next one will be what? Blood. You know where blood is, in blood vessel. And in the skin, the next chapter, the skin will have three layers. The epidermis, the dermis, and the hypodermis. The epidermis will have how many layers? 5. Come, let's get sunburn. Stratum corneum, stratum lucidum, stratum granulosum, stratum spinosum, and stratum basal. That's 5. Why? Because we talk about the thick skin. But if I go behind my hand, the thin skin, it'll have 4. It will not have lucidum. Lucidum will be extra here, no lucidum here. 4, no lucidum, 5 with lucidum. Then we said that's the epidermis, right? Because we say the epidermis, dermis, hypodermis. The epidermis itself, which is epithelial, right, has the 5 layers. When we come to the dermis, it is a connective tissue, it's not epithelial. And we said the connective tissue will have fibroblasts, collagen fibers, and ground substance. And what type of tissue is it, connective? Dense, irregular connective tissue. Do you see how the skin is just a combination of all the tissues? Just like making cake, different layers. So the top is epithelial, one of the tissue type. That's epithelial. That's why the epidermis is called epidermis, because it's epithelial. Now the dermis is connective. But think about it. Between the epidermis and dermis, you have basal membrane, right? That's gonna always be areolar connective tissue. Then we got dense irregular connective tissue. You see how you have all the tissue in the skin? The skin has everything almost, right? Then you go down, you go to the what? The dermis, and then the hypodermis. Where do you find that? Adipose tissue. You see how you find all the tissue there too. So everything we talk about in chapter 5 is gonna be in chapter 6. If we just put them together. So the epidermis will be what? Stratified squamous epithelium. You see that? Then you go down, right? You get to the body, you get areolar connective tissue. Then you go down, dense, irregular connective tissue. I didn't want to have more than 10. Oh my God, 18 minutes. Guys, that was too much. All right, maybe what I need to talk about the skin, the glands. The gland is part of epithelial. The salivatory gland, the sweat gland, they're like part of the top layer of your body. Now, there are 3 different ways we can secrete glands. One gland will secrete, and it will lose a little part of it. We call that what? Halocrine, apocrine, and merocrine. So merocrine will be merely secreting itself. It will secrete just a little part of the top. Apocrine will secrete the top part. The top part will go with it. Just for example, if I take this bottle, right, and I secrete something, instead of giving just the water, I cut the top of the bottle. So if I cut just a little bit here, it'll be merocrine. If I cut here, apocrine. If I blow the whole thing off and give, it'll be halocrine, the whole thing. So there are 3 types of secretion in gland. We got that. So we got glands. What else we have? But the nail, we need to know the nail and the nail bed, the hair. Okay, what do we need to know? The hair color. Of course, we need to know melanin. That's great. And we know vitamin D. The sun hitting your skin makes you secrete vitamin D, right? And then we say the melanin is in the dermis, right at the border of the basal coming up to the epidermis. because the melanin is the cell, it has to eat. In order for you to eat, you have to have blood vessel, because the epidermis doesn't have blood vessel, it cannot feed it. It has to kind of put his feet into the dermis to suck the food, to get his branches into the epidermis so we can see the person's color. You see what I'm saying? Just like you're holding your feet here to eat, but you're putting your hand on top to show yourself. It's the same thing. That's why he has the branches like that. Make sense? So, oh my gosh, 20 minutes, that's too long. But let me see what else we need to talk about. We need the difference between matrix and ground substance. In connective tissue, the ground substance is the thing, right? The dough, the thing you make. If you add the collagen, it will be the matrix. And then if you add the cell, it will be all connective tissue. Make sense? Then we got the bone, the osteocytes, osteoblast, osteoprogenitor cell, the osteon, the circle, and the osteoid. The osteoid is like a ground substance of bone. It's the same thing. It's just a things that are mixed up in, basically, right? What else do we need to do? I think, all right, that's it, I think. I think with this video that I'll put on YouTube in a few minutes, you watch it 50,000 times. So you will know osteoprogenitor cell, the stem cell, osteoblast, the immature bone cells, osteocyte, the grown, the mature bone cell. Then you talk about lamella, those little circle, right? Circumferential lamella around the whole bone, concentric lamella in osteon, interstitial lamella between the osteon, right? You got the osteocyte that lies in the lacunae, like a little lake with water floating, and they connect with canaliculi between them, but we don't have osteon in trabeculae. Remember spongy bone and compact bone. Compact bone is the hard one, the top of the bone. Spongy is inside. We have trabeculae in the spongy, but in the compact we have osteon, right? In osteon you have osteocyte that will have canaliculi to communicate. But in the trabecula, you're not having osteon, you're not having canaliculi, okay? Because they're kind of not far from each other. So they can all talk to the blood vessels. What else? I think that's it. I mean, I did a quick video. Thank you very much. If I make a mistake, we fix it in class, right? Thank you, bye-bye.